Got it. Hello, can you all hear me? I hope so. Well, I'm gonna get started. Let's see. Oh, here's session. Great. Okay. All right. There's people. I was like, "There's someone here." Well, thanks for having me. My name's Kelly Garvy. I graduated from the Nicholas School of the Environment in 2015, and I'll be talking today about environment and tech. And so I'm going to try and share my slides and just talk over the slides. But when I share, you know, it like takes over the screen, so I don't know if I'll be able to see the hop-in chat. I'll give it a go. And we'll see how this, okay, if I do, here, 1 second. Let me try it this way. I'm gonna do this application window. Great, okay, awesome. So now I'm gonna go to that other window.
Hi, Kelly. How can I help you?
Hello. Oh, good. I think, all right. I'm going to present, I'm going to try and do it in this application window. You know what? Actually, what I think I'm going to do is, because then I won't be able to see see myself and see the hop-in. So I'm actually just going to open it in like a PDF, and we'll go through it that way. Because I only have one screen right now. All right, here we go. So let's see. Let me change my screen that I'm sharing. Great. Okay. All right. So
hello.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Do you have any questions?
I think I got it. Do you all see that presentation right there that says tech and environment? Yes. All right. Great. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm going to try and keep the talking relatively short because I like to just like chat and answer questions and things like that. So, you know, and it obviously, it always depends on like where folks are coming from. So I really want to hear how I can be helpful, what other sorts of things, you know, you want to hear from me, but I'll just go over a little bit about what I do, work in the environmental world, technology, and some of the roles I've had and some of the ones I'm doing right now. And yeah, so let's see here. So you can see this. So I graduated from the Nicholas School in 2015. I did a master's in environmental management in environmental economics and policy. And since then, I've done a lot of work, a lot of organizing work. I advise several research groups and organizations on using technology in research. I have a startup that I started a couple of years ago. Actually, after I graduated from the Nicholas School, I worked at Duke Innovation and Entrepreneurship for Howie Reed. So I don't know if y'all know Howie, he's great. And I actually had helped set up Hack Duke back when I was working at INE, but I started a startup there then, and it's still going, and it's actually growing really fast, and it's doing really well. I've done a lot of campaign work, which I find goes hand in hand with a lot of the environmental technology work. Is, you know, you're working on if you're working on software, especially, you know, so much of the environment has to do with communication and education too. So I do a lot of organizing campaign work that way. But a lot of what I've done in the last couple of years is front end and recently back end, but front end design and development, and I do a lot of UI, UX. So I'll just dive right into what I currently am working on right now. I have 3 big projects that I'm working on, and I'm doing too much. Trying to actually like pare back how much I'm doing, but So I advise a few groups of researchers and NOAA on how to appropriately use software, how to design software. Most of this for research, and I'll go into the types of research. And then organizing, I also, right now, I consult with the Pew Charitable Foundation and NC Coastal Federation on building support for the Coastal Habitat Protection Plan, which is, it's probably honestly like 50-50, you know, working in different areas of technology. You know, I build them websites and I'm running social media campaigns that are, you know, heavily data driven. So being able to, you know, be able to set up those sorts of pipelines and systems through Facebook and Google and all those things. It's there's a lot of technical work there. And then a lot of what I do is the organizing side as well around education. And then I'm a founder of a state legislation tracking website, and we provide state legislation tracking for mostly nonprofits, lobbyists, and law firms, specifically in North Carolina. So, you know, I know I don't need to tell you guys this, but you know, in the world, obviously, technology is everywhere, and in the sciences and in the environment, it's there's no, you know, that applies as well. But one of the things that I've noticed is there's, you know, obviously there's been a lot of development of hardware in energy, but in terms of software on the like research side and on more of the campaign side, I think that there's a ton of opportunity for people to work who have strong technical skills. Those areas really, really need more technically, you know, more technical folks in those areas. And I'll about to go into kind of give you some examples of where, you know, people have been, for example, nonprofits have been running things for a long time the same way, and they're trying to bring more technology and better design software into their systems. But a lot of the folks who go into those roles don't necessarily have strong technical backgrounds. So if you have a strong technical background and you do want to work in the environmental world, there's a lot of opportunity. So move along there. So in my advising role with researchers, and this is where I just see a really big need is, did I hear a thing? Okay, great. Oh, thanks, Sam. So where I see a really big need is, and this has happened, I mean, I'll give you the example of Wildlife Conservation Society in a minute, but for example, my master's thesis at the Nicholas School was on the use and emergence of apps in recreational fisheries. And I won't go into, I could talk about this forever, but basically what has happened over time is in recreational fisheries, for example, how you manage the fishery and make sure that you're not taking too much of the fishery and that it can grow. And there's a level called in fishery economics, maximum sustainable yield or maximum economic yield. And it's this ideal level of fish. So you're taking just enough, you know, you're taking enough that you're not, think of it like a bank account, like you're not going into your principal, so that the stock is stable and either continues to grow or is stable. And so how in the past fisheries have managed this is for commercial, it's very, you know, it's relatively easier. It's a heavily regulated, you know, you got commercial anglers who have licenses showing up at a dock, you know, then there are folks there who can count their fish. The recreational side is completely different. There's so many recreational anglers. They're leaving from private docks. They're fishing from the beach. Like it's very, very hard to account for the amount of fish that are being taken out from recreational fisheries. And in the past, we've used what's called as the, it's called MRIP. It's a type of survey that's a paper survey. And NOAA and state managers said, well, these paper surveys, like, why don't we get something more technologically advanced for a number of different reasons? And so I evaluated using apps for managing the recreational fishery, and I continue to do that because one of the things that is so needed in this world is really good design, good UI UX. I mean, anybody who's been on a there's so many poorly designed apps, and I feel like it can be very easy, especially for you know, bigger organizations who are trying to take something that was paper and make it software based, struggle with that. So I advise them on how to design, how to think about the database, what kind of problems are we trying to solve, and how is software actually going to do that? And is software going to do that? I think that that's something that is really important to think about, because you can just say, you can end up going down a rabbit hole thinking that you should build software when maybe you shouldn't. And that's kind of the situation of the Wildlife Conservation Society. And I'll get there. The next one is the Global Restore Project. Like I said, I had been doing front end forever, and then, well, not forever, like for several years. And then I wanted to get into the back end work. So earlier this year, about a year ago, I got in touch with these restoration researchers who they had all of this data. They had data 1.25 million data points on restoration projects across the globe, sitting, locally on their Excel files on their computers. And, getting that, the dream was they wanted to get it into the cloud so that restoration researchers could upload and download each other's data. Like, obviously, you could run like all sorts of cool stats on that. But, they were pretty not well funded, like didn't have the funding to go pay back-end developers to like build this dream. And also the other thing that I've found is that folks who don't have the technical background struggle so much when it comes to project implementation, because they're not able to make the trade-offs of time to cost. So I basically said, well, I want to learn the back end, like I'll do it for you guys. And I started as a volunteer, and then they started paying me to build this cloud-based database. And so that'll launch hopefully in January, but that's very exciting. And then the Wildlife Conservation Society of Canada, I actually just got in touch with them because they reached out. I knew someone from working back with them a long time ago, and we caught up recently, and she said, we wanted to build this app, and we paid, and that we had no idea what we were doing, that they kind of, lost the money that they paid the developer because they didn't realize there was a massive communication. And I think I see that all the time when it comes to managing technical folks. People who have no technical background, is the folks who don't have any technical background tend to underestimate the costs and the complexity. And there can be a lot lost in communication. So the role that I've kind of carved out for myself is this person who can communicate between both sides, really, like project manager, and really focusing on the research side, because I really like that. So the NOAA reporting, I think I kind of went into this a little bit, but basically I'm on a task force. It provides expert advice on generation, delivery, and use of electronically reported data. And again, how I'm contributing is leading report writing, software and database design, the qualitative skills, and being very user-focused. That is something that I think my strength is really in the in being very user-focused and on the UX side. Global Restore Project, I kind of just talked about this. And yeah, the reason we're doing this too is because the UN has declared 2020 to 2030 the decade of restoration, and there's a lot of land to restore, especially as in a way to reduce emissions, increase biodiversity. But it's so hard to get the science out of those scientists' computers and into the hands of practitioners who are, for example, they're working in state agencies or they're working in federal agencies, and they want to implement a restoration project, but the most up-to-date science is either kind of locked in these researchers' computers. And so one of the things that we put in a grant to work on next year, if we get the grant, actually building software for the managers that is directly tied to this like cloud data that we want to run learning algorithms on and all sorts of fancy stats on. And then the startup that this is less the research side, but this is a policy side. and my master's was environmental economics policy. So I started building this several years ago, and it has started to grow quite fast. And it's doing well, and it's very exciting. I mean, it took a long time and a lot of interviewing, a lot of coding, but we stuck with it, and very happy about where it is right now. I think that oh, okay. Well, I'll go through a few more roles, and then I can open it up to questions. The other role that I had that was very fun and was obviously great. You need the technical background for is digital director for a congressional campaign in 2018. We won by 0.6 percentage points, and working on campaigns with technical skills is obviously it is heavily needed, and it's a very exciting and very fun role. It's stressful, and there's long days, but campaigns are like shooting stars. They burn bright and fast. But if you want to have a very fun and very interesting experience, I would recommend working in a digital role on a campaign. So the last thing I'll just give my interview tips. I feel like my strongest asset is the UX side and the interview side. So when I was in my master's, a lot of my master's was qualitative. So I was interviewing folks, and I've taken that into all of my development, all of my technology. And to me, that's obviously you got to be able to code, and you got to know how to do the actual engineering side of things. But the interviewing and the understanding the user is, in my opinion, what really makes a difference. And you want to make sure that you're not building something people don't want, because you spend a lot of time doing that, and it's wasted. So my interview tips are, the first one is check your assumptions. When I had started my company, and I know so many people who've done this, they get so excited about an idea, that this is the idea, it's going to work. And they can get locked into that idea. And then when they're interviewing folks, that's all they hear, or they're not hearing what they're saying. They're only asking questions that are reinforcing kind of what they want to hear. And I definitely experienced this as an early designer. So that's the first one, is you don't want to waste time. Like, even if you don't be too attached to your ideas, because there's nothing worse than spending a really long time building something because it's what you wanted to build, and then eventually reality will catch up and tell you that's not reality, and that's always a shame. So kill ideas fast. Talk to lots of people. I think I got pretty used. I never thought that I was very comfortable talking to people until maybe in my master's, when I started doing the qualitative work. And if you're someone who is shy and you don't really feel comfortable talking to people, I find that just asking people questions, if other people starting to talk, it makes the conversation just much more comfortable. And people like to talk, and they like to be heard. So if you can get really comfortable asking questions, you'll be great at UX. And then asking open-ended questions. This was something that, I definitely learned in my master's with the qualitative research, but then when I actually did this in software, I found that the questions I had to ask, certain questions you just are not going to get good answers to. So, like asking someone a specific design question, like, should it be a checkbox or should it be a radio button? Like, you don't want to ask those kind of questions necessarily. I mean, that one should be kind of obvious, but asking bigger open-ended questions about how they live their life as it relates to your technology. But even the bigger, broader questions of what are their major challenges, if you're so narrowed in on asking about a specific challenge, and you don't kind of take a step back to look at the rest of that person's, how that challenge fits within their entire life, you could be missing a really big opportunity to understand more about whether or not is that technical challenge like worth it to them, or are there things that are Are there bigger problems out there? Are there bigger fish to fry, basically, in terms of the problems you want to solve? And then I've also found that strongly recommend live interviews over surveys. If you're someone who hasn't done a lot of interviews and you don't feel super comfortable with interviews, surveys might feel more comfortable, but you're going to miss so much. So strongly recommend just getting really comfortable with live, either face-to-face or over Zoom interviews. And, you can obviously use the surveys, but you'll get, you could spend days, and I've experienced this too. I spent days and days doing research and, not talking to someone and then having an hour-long conversation with a user will tell you more than basically, in my opinion, anything else you could do. So my design advice is, I think design is everything. It makes or breaks so many different applications, software uses, and so, I love design, and I think that the best way, in my opinion, to be a good designer is to listen. So I like this quote from Ernest Hemingway. I like to listen. I have learned a great deal from listening carefully. Most people never listen. So the last quote is a little, it's a little dark about the state of our environment. We've got a lot of challenges, and technology can definitely help to solve them, but a lot of them are people-based. So it's a little, maybe a little bit of a dark, but a real challenge that we're facing in terms of, all of the biodiversity and climate and health and food challenges. So there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm going to stop now and answer any questions if you want to open it up or talk. It doesn't just have to be in the chat. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions, either during the hackathon or after. Any questions? Oh, cool. What's your favorite project that you have worked on? I'm trying to think. What would be the favorite one I've worked on? I would say of the ones I talked about today, I really like the Global Restore project. It's such a big, it's such a big, like, game-changing thing that it's really, if you have some technical skills and you want to make an impact, like, you can do that in the environment, because so many of the folks who work in the environment, especially on the research side, they obviously have very strong analytical skills, strong R or Python, but there are not a lot of people there who are very comfortable with software design and deploying. So I like that project a lot. Yeah, so I'll answer Sam's first and then Madeline's next as they come in. So my startup actually is one of those startups that benefited from COVID, which is, a little disturbing, but in this world, in the legislative world, a lot of things were, people used to do everything in person, and a lot of people didn't really use a tracker. They didn't think they needed one. They would just go to the North Carolina General Assembly, kind of like sit there all day. It's kind of insider baseball. Like, everybody knows each other. They're there every day. They have their friends that they sit with, and they know what's happening with legislation because they're just around so many people. So once COVID hit, actually, a lot of people who I don't think were really using trackers were like, oh my gosh, I can't just go sit at the General Assembly. Like, I need some other way to know what's happening, to bills moving. So we started to just get a lot more interest. And, our sales is like popping off right now. So, and we've always been remote. So while my husband had never worked remote before and was adjusting to it, this is how I had been working for years. Madeline, what are some other projects you've seen, heard of that combine environmental science and tech? Well, there's a lot of opportunity in, there is, if you were looking to do environmental science and tech, there's obviously the like green energy side of things where, you know, and I don't do a lot of energy work, so I won't really speak to that. But I believe there's a lot of opportunity there. Oh yeah, I'll answer that next, Emily. But in terms of the research and tech side, and the management and actual application of research. So, for example, the federal government and the state agencies, they do a lot of the implementation. Like they are measuring the pollution levels in our rivers and streams and the ocean, and they are monitoring biodiversity. They are implementing restoration projects. And, you know, you can just go look at DEQ's website and you can see that they are not only just like the front end of their websites are really hard to navigate, but a lot of the technology that they're relying on, but they're not really relying on technology. And that's like, for example, with NOAA, they're trying to do better monitoring, get better data. A lot of it is around getting the data. So how do you use software to actually get much better data, and then, you know, analyzing that data and making management decisions on that data. So yeah, in agencies, in the federal government, in research, and really combining those two groups, there's a lot of opportunity. Oh yeah, how did I get started? So I think it depends on what your background is. So I had a strong environmental background, and I didn't have a very strong technical background. I did my undergrad in environmental sciences and then my master's in environmental economics and policy. And it wasn't until I was in my master's and after my master's that I really started, like I taught myself how to code. You know, I did all the code courses and I just started building. And so once I got pretty comfortable with building, then I started just reaching out to, well, NOAA reached out to me because of my master's thesis, but I started reaching out to researchers, and you know, for a few of them, just started as a volunteer. So if you have the capacity, and some people will say don't volunteer because your time is worth something, and it totally is. In the environmental space, a lot of these folks are underfunded or they aren't funded very well, and they may not post these jobs, and it may not even look like it's a challenge to them. But if you, like, I just was Google searching. I just started searching and I found the Global Restore Project because I wanted to find something like that. So I would do some searching. I mean, look up like researchers in different areas that you're interested in. So if you're interested in marine or something, or you're interested in whatever area you're interested in, kind of do a little bit of a deep dive, try and dig around a little bit, find some folks, reach out to them, ask them if they need help, if they need technical help, or if they know someone who does, because you are interested in getting in this space. And yeah, a lot of what I did, I just either found through folks or did some internet Googling and then reached out to people. And now I, you know, have several consulting, have a few consulting gigs now in that space in addition to my company. So it takes a while. There's a lot of networking to be done, but if you're interested, definitely reach out to me. And I've had a few folks, maybe I'll make like a little listserv, and if I see things, I can send them to you. And I am looking for some help on the Global Restore Project. So if folks are interested, definitely email me, and maybe we can find some work in the next year or so. I don't know how long my session goes. Is it 30 minutes? I think it's probably 30 minutes. So if there's another question, or you know, we don't have time for a question, but you think of one later, feel free to reach out. I definitely love to hear from people. And like I said, I have a lot of projects going on, and I do need help with several of them. So if you're interested in any of this, just reach out and let me know, and there may be some opportunities soon. So. All right. Well, thank you all. I think my time's up, right? It's only 30 minutes, right? It's not an hour. I think I should know this. All right. I don't see any more messages. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have fun. And if you have any questions, if you need help with any on the design development of projects, if you're on an environmental one, ask me any questions in the Discord. My name's Kelly, so just reach out. I'm happy to help. Love to hear what you all are building. All right. Thanks. Bye.